Now, one of my things growing up, I definitely wanted to go to Taconic, play at Taconic. We talked about it through the Boys Club years. We thought we should have a rock squad with Lloyd, Troy, Tyrone, myself, a bunch of others from the neighborhood. But let me talk about my cousins. One of the worst things was playing against those guys. Even though they're my family, they kicked our tail in high school. I was getting beat down by my cousins. And I'm going, we should all be on the same team. We're family. Lloyd's game, Troy's game, they took it to another level. They won state titles. I mean, what more can you say? Um, Tyrone, he was a neighborhood legend. He reminded me of like a body type of like a Pearl Washington. He had handle. He could shoot the jumper. The game seemed to just flow through Ty. He seemed to know moves 2 or 3 steps ahead of what you would think. He just knew the game of basketball so long. I mean, so much earlier than the rest of us. Seemed like we were all learning basketball, and he was already an expert. He was a man amongst boys out there for a long time, and like Lloyd said earlier, we just had to hustle harder, work harder to even keep up with Ty. To even keep up with Ty. Again, Troy, same thing. Another phenomenal athlete. I remember watching him in the paper for football, soccer, basketball, and hated the fact that they went to St. Joe. Lloyd too. I really hated the fact that they went to St. Joe because they was kicking our tail, and I was like, man, that's my family, man. That's my family. So yeah, I have nothing but really great memories, but really bittersweet memories. Unfortunately, I got to watch them ball all the time because they were on the other side of the other side of the bench from me. So, but it was great. It was great.
All right, these four. Troy, I never got to watch play. But Lloyd, yeah, I got some stories on how I got to watch him play. Being a little rugrat at the boys' club, running around with snotty nose, thinking I was the shit. I used to clean the bleachers. When they would pull them out, I'd help pull them out, clean them, wipe them down, just so I could get into the St. Joe games for free and to watch Lloyd, who's my cousin, play. And I only got to watch, the first 5 minutes of the game, but it was enough where I had pride in watching them play, and I got to be like, yo, that's my cousin out there balling. One of the only brothers out there balling at the time, but that that was my cousin, my older cousin, so I got to see him play a little bit. I never got to go to any kind of games when I was little. So I never got to see my brother Troy play. I think Lloyd just happened to be, convenience of place and time because I was a boys club rugrat. And Tyrone, I think he's the only one I got to see all the time play in the park. He was always balling with his big ass feet, size what 15 shell toe Adidas.
Yeah.
6 foot 15.
And I remember he always had shell toe Adidas, and
Yeah.
I was like, damn, dude, how you always have the most expensive sneaker? Which was $50 to him.
With the burn mark on
That's
it.
right.
But Ty had big feet and could ball, handle. He mumbled when he talked, but you still loved him. You kind of remind me of Mike Tyson when I reflect on him, because he had that little gap. But his hair, his waves were always wavy. I mean, you never seen Tyrone without waves in his hair, and and the way that boy could ball, man, the best I ever seen.
All right, so let's talk about this class right here. I think this was probably one of our best class for our family, and I'll start with my brother Troy. Uh, Troy I balled with a lot because we used to play in the backyard because we were on punishment all the time. So we would ball, and the teams happened to always be Brett and Troy against me and Anthony. And then, Kim would be thrown in, and I would get Kim on my team because Brett didn't want a girl on his team. But that's how we started balling. So it was instantly very competitive. And Troy always rose to the occasion. I was really glad when he went to Taconic, but I really wanted to see the whole family, the whole four, play together. That was our vision. Our vision was to set it up. Roger and Bobby set it up. Tony and Brett continued it. And then it was supposed to trickle down to Troy. Lloyd and Tyrone. And then the final chapter was Tut and Damien. So that's my vision on Troy. I'm going to go over the other guys right now. Wait a second. So now I'll talk about Troy Robinson. Man, this guy, phenomenal body, first of all. Very powerful, great athletic ability. Was real mild in his demeanor on how he played. He was very strong, but he wasn't forceful. And that's big up because, when you're that strong, you can become a bully. You can be, overconfident with all your physical skills, but he was a good dude. And that's what I remember the most about Troy Robinson. And I miss him dearly. May he rest in peace. That's one of our youngest cousins to pass away. And hats off, R.I.P. Troy Robinson. All right, so I'm going to start talking about my other cousins. And I'll start with Lloyd. I can remember we used to call him Irving because he had Julius Irving-like moves. I mean, I think he watched how Roger finger rolled, and he started emulating the way Roger would finger roll, and that's the way I would see Irving play. And I was like, look at my cousin Lloyd. He had that quick first step, and then once he got around you, you were done. It was a wrap. I'm be honest. I'm gonna be straight up. I was very disappointed that he went to St. Joe. Okay, and that was the first time that the family went to a different school because we all grew up on the west side, and Taconic was our school. I didn't know the history of what happened, but I'm sure in Lloyd's interview you'll hear that information, and you're gonna have to stay tuned for that because that's gonna be one hell of an interview. So now let's talk about Tyrone the God Gatson. Legendary. Like you already heard, his feet were huge. His hands were huge. He could dribble the ball like a yo-yo. It would go up and down, up and down. Spin move. Powerful. He had every physical asset you needed to ball. He had a jump shot. He could pull up on you. He could dunk on you. I mean, he made basketball look easy. So I really understand when Lloyd and those guys said they had to work so much harder because they didn't have the physical talent that he had. And I felt that same way about Roger. I know I didn't have that kind of physical talent, so I had to do the other things. So as you can see, the people with the most talent was our inspiration. Okay? And all I have to do is say R.I.P. to Tyrone too, because that's a tragedy that he's no longer.
So this is Lloyd again, and I'm gonna start with my little cousin Damian Hamilton, and I'll just start by saying that this kid, at such a young age, had what I thought was everything to come out of the West Side as the West Side GOAT. He could handle, he could shoot, he was quick, and I remember one time he was playing over in the projects over there that court with one hoop, and I remember somebody coming down and saying Damien's up in the park swearing. And so my aunt Marilyn sent me up there. My aunt Mary said, go up there and tell him to stop swearing. And I walked up there, and he's in the park by himself, shooting basketball. Mm. And he would take a shot, and if it went in, all was good. If you missed it, you heard this stuff, shit. Damien, what are you doing? Mom said to stop swearing. He said, but that's what the older guys do. And I was just like, I just left it alone. But I also remember him being at the boys club and just balling out. And he just had so much talent at such a young age. And it's a tragedy that he's no longer with us. But rest in peace to Damian Hamilton. And then for my cousin Tut, I remember Tut just like Damian. At such a young age, he had all of this ridiculous skill. And then one day he was taller than me, and I was like, damn. And so not only did he have the skill, but he had the height that I dreamed about having. And I was like, oh, I only had the height. But it was just the combination of skill that they had at such a young age. And then when Tut grew into his body, and I was like, it's over. It's over. No one's going to be able to handle that kid. It's a wrap from here on out. And he's a legend in his own right. Um, I just wish I had seen him ball out some more.
Like I hear a beat. That beat joker. Okay, Damien and Todd. My earliest recollections were they were partners, best friends. I see him all the time. I mean, Todd was my little brother. Damien was my little cousin. We were all still hanging out at the boys' club at that time too, and they were always at the club. And it seemed like every year it was a competition between the two of them of who was going to win the MVP. Damien wins this year. Tut wins this year. Damien wins this year. So it was a real tragedy to lose my little cuz at such a young age. He had so much potential. I definitely think he would have went college ball, maybe even beyond. He was that good. My brother Tut, again, that was my little brother. I love to brag on him. And Lloyd's right. When he just sprouted and just grew taller than all of us, taller than everybody in the family, you just felt like Tut had it all. I mean, that's just as a brother perspective, thinking like, oh man, my little brother, he got the height. I felt like I had to work hard to be decent at ball. And he also made ball look effortless to me. Like he just come down, he had crazy handle, he had a jumper, he could dunk on you. He just seemed to have it all together. I mean, even as a little brother, I looked up to him on the ball skill thing. I was like, man, I wish I could ball like that. I cannot ball. I could never ball like that. I could never ball. I feel like I could never ball even at my best the way he could ball. So, it was good. It was good to watch him grow.
I had that Grant Hill game.
Yeah,
It was just so smooth when he had his body
yeah,
started matching. It was
yeah. When it all came together, it came together.
Damn, now it's like the inside story. Why they play?
Well, I just want to say that I didn't get a chance to watch Tut play, but I saw his baby pictures, and I'm so glad that his body caught up to his head because he wasn't going to be able to do anything else besides maybe play football because he got a helmet head. So that's how that was going to play out.
All right, Tut and Damien. Wow. So our vision for those two was that was supposed to be our pinnacle. They were supposed to be the NBA ballers. They were supposed to bring the fame to the family. And not that they didn't, it just didn't get done. And there was reasons. Damien got into a got hit by a car and tragically killed. And I don't think as a family we've recovered from that. I really think that we all suffer from the loss of what should have been, what could have been, and what didn't happen. Um, so I remember I was away in school and I kept hearing these stories about Damien. And I already knew my brother Tut. I knew we were setting him up to ball out. He was smooth, he was doing this, and I kept hearing Damien's just as bad. Those two boys are going to be nice. And I kept saying, wow, that's great because now the family lives on through these two dudes. And we're going to see exactly how far the family's going to go with this. And it means a lot to have that happen for us. I mean, we all took pride in each generation, but that was the generation we picked and primed for each level to trickle down to those two guys. So I know that was putting a lot of pressure on them, but Damien, fabulous. I think Lloyd told the story about how they changed at the boys' club of him getting the MVP and naming it after him. So I'm going to have Lloyd give you that information, but I just remember that story, and I didn't know that until Lloyd told it to me. And I said, wow, that's a great way to honor him. So big hats off to my cousin, my little cousin, rest in peace, Damien. All right, so I'm going to talk about my little brother, Willie Claude Johnson. And we named him Tut, and then all of a sudden he became King Tut. So growing up in a family like us, we were very competitive. I can remember taking Troy out and always beating him. Never let any of my younger brothers beat me. Brett, Troy, Anthony, and then when Tut came along, it was the same way. So Tut had it rough because he had me on him, he had Brett on him, he had Troy on him, and he had Anthony on him. And man, we knew this guy was going to get it all. He had to have all the talent and all the ability because we were tough on him. We were very, very competitive, and Tut learned at a very young age that he had to ball out because it was expected. It was expected of him. So I can remember always beating him and never giving him a break. One summer I come home and I turn around and this joker is 6 to 8 inches taller in high school. And he's like, "Come on, Tone, let's play." Needless to say, I never won a game after that. And boy, I really took the beating. But I gave the beating to get the beating. And that's how family works. So I know Tut came down and we played at the park. And I was dealing with some guys that played big time ball. And they were like, "Yo, what's up with your brother? Where's he going to school at? We want to know." Rutgers had him on their list. They were just waiting for him to finish high school. So I was like, okay, Tut can write his own ticket. So that's my recollections of Tut.
And I think the record still stands to this day. And I know they did change one of the MVPs to honor him. I believe they did. Is that true, Lloyd?
Yeah, they did. It's named after
Because
him.
I mean, that dude was a straight baller, and he was left-handed. So being left-handed, you're extra gifted.
It's an advantage.
He was.
Yes.
And he was the coolest dude. And that was my best friend, my cousin. Me and him did everything together. And then that one tragic night.
So this is Lloyd again, and just talking about my little cousin Damien. And so, because of the way that he carried himself, and because of the way that he balled out, um, after that tragic incident, I remember my Aunt Marilyn getting a phone call and taking the call, and I remember her putting the phone down and just coming and asking me. She says, "Lloyd, this is what the Boys Club wants to do. What do you think?" And at the time, the Boys Club was everything, So I was like, I think that's great. And what they ended up doing was, I believe it's the Midget League um, MVP is now called the Damian Dana Hamilton MVP, and that's a fitting tribute for that young man.
Amen. Amen. So we just rounded up conversations about 4 different generations of Hamilton Westside Legend basketballs. We started out with Bobby and Roger Hamilton, and then we went to Tony and Brett Jackson. Then we went to Tyrone Gatson, Troy Johnson, Troy Robinson, and Lloyd Nolan. And then we just finished up with Damian Hamilton and Tut Johnson. And that is a true Westside Legend basketball family. And they also told you about how Taconic went to St. Joe and then the misfortunes of what happened. But it is truly a Westside basketball family. And we want to say a big shout out to our 2 fallen cousins, who they mean a lot, 3 fallen cousins, my bad, that they mean a lot to us. And we're just going to give everybody a chance to say what they want to say about those cousins. And those cousins' names are Tyrone Gatson,